My name is Teresa Villas. I'm Member of Parliament for Chipping Barnet. It's a great pleasure to be able to join you today at this excellent conference on the Balfour Declaration hosted by BICOM and the Jewish News to celebrate this very important centenary. I am a Vice Chairman of the Conservative Friends of Israel, an organisation of which I have been a member for nearly 2 decades, and I very much share the pride felt in this room at the UK's role in the creation of the State of Israel. And it is a great pleasure today to be able to be here as the warm-up act for Secretary of State Priti Patel. I've been taking part in a number of events to celebrate the centenary of this very short declaration, which did so much to pave the way for the recreation of the State of Israel. No thanks. I was happy to add my name to a letter published in the Telegraph today, signed by over 100 of my Conservative colleagues, expressing our support for Israel on this very auspicious day. And one of our most steadfast friends is the International Development Secretary, Priti Patel, who is a long-standing supporter of Israel and the Jewish community. And one of the first things that Priti did after becoming Secretary of State for International Development last year was to launch a very thorough review into the UK's aid to the Palestinians, following on from reports of which we're all aware of the abuse of that foreign aid by the Palestinian Authority. She has done excellent work to redirect our aid to vital health and education services, and in July this year she announced an unprecedented £3 million of UK funding for projects aimed at reconciliation and peaceful coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians and bringing them together. This was in response to calls from me and many others. So I want to welcome Priti and to thank you for your support and friendship for Israel and the Jewish community, and I'm very honoured to ask you to say a few words to the conference.
Teresa, thank you for your introduction, and my lords, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and friends, it is a real pleasure and a privilege to be with you today and to join this event to mark the centenary of the Balfour Declaration in the presence of esteemed friends and colleagues. And I'd like to thank BICOM and the Jewish News for hosting this important event and also for asking me to speak. It is an honour to be here today. 100 years on from the Balfour Declaration, Britain is proud of the role we played in helping to make a Jewish homeland for Jewish people after so many centuries of persecution. And as the Prime Minister said last week in Parliament, we are proud of the role that we played in the creation of the State of Israel, and we will certainly mark the centenary with pride. The Prime Minister said that she is pleased about the global trade, the good trade, the other relationships that we have, the strong relationships we have with Israel, and that we continue to build and enhance them. She also said that we must be conscious of the sensitivities that some people have and communities have around the declaration. It is also vital that we look forward to establishing a security and justice for both Israelis and Palestinians through a lasting peace. And of course, we believe that the best way to achieve this is through a two-state solution based on a negotiated settlement that leads to a safe and secure Israel living alongside a viable and sovereign Palestinian state. Today, the United Kingdom remains a close and reliable friend of Israel. From the strong and enduring bilateral relationship built upon decades of cooperation in education, technology, medical research, business, arts, culture, trade relationship, and of course through our people-to-people ties. Within the region in particular, Israel is an important strategic partner for the United Kingdom, and Britain's commitment to Israel's security remains unwavering, as is our support for Israel's absolute right to defend its citizens. And during meetings with Prime Minister Netanyahu earlier this year, the Prime Minister reiterated the UK's commitment to building on those incredibly strong ties that already exist between our two countries, and of course to build upon them. I believe that there is great potential for our two countries to continue to work together as we work to set the foundations for a more stable and prosperous future. Now, as International Development Secretary, I see and make decisions every day about our changing world, and of course about some of the most poorest and the troubled places in the world. It is staggering but true that there are more refugees and displaced people now more than any time since the Second World War, with over 15 million people in the Middle East region alone. In fact, the Middle East and North Africa is the only region in the world where poverty rates are expected to rise in the coming years. And if nothing changes, the number of people living in those conditions will escalate. There are already 29 million children living in poverty in the region, and many countries in the region also have a poor track record on development. The Middle East is therefore not just a security challenge, but it is a development challenge too. We see violence and conflict pulling people back into poverty. We see the enormous potential of people being squandered because of the failure of government and leaders to create the conditions of stability, opportunity, growth, and also the conditions where fairness and human endeavour can flourish. As a result, some of the areas have become fertile territory for extremist groups and organisations and their poisonous ideologies. Extremist groups are seeking to control schools and what they teach by repressing all freedom of thought and secular education, which is why, in DFID, but all of us around the world must invest in these people and communities so that we can end the hateful ideology that seeks to create division across countries, communities, and people. So let me say that 100 years on from the Balfour Declaration, it is deplorable that anti-Semitism has once again raised its ugly head here in our country and in other parts of the world. We will fight it wherever it appears and speak out against intolerance, hatred and bigotry in all its forms. And together, we must ensure that it appears no more. The UK has a critical role to play in development and of course in helping to tackle the root causes of terror and violent extremism. And education is a crucial part of this. Education is crucial to breaking down barriers and attitude, perceptions about people and cultures. And by investing in education and education systems, we're able to go across boundaries in a world where physical borders have less and less meaning. And today, across the Middle East in particular, we see over 10 million children out of school in the region that has experienced the largest reversal of education progress in history. Protecting and educating a generation of vulnerable young people is crucial to development if we are to turn them away from the toxic messages of extremists and instead provide new opportunities through education, skills and work. And that is exactly what we in DFID are doing. And in terms of the region itself, when it comes to the Palestinian state, seeking to invest in building instability through education and also by providing services is crucial. But also this includes job creation through economic development and job opportunities for women and young people. And also building upon the support when it comes to people-to-people ties through communities, through coexistence programs and support. And we are working across both communities to support peace and stability. Now, I've seen for myself the very best of Jewish organisations and charities around the world, including here in the United Kingdom, doing so much amazing work by investing in people, both in Israel and also across Palestine as well. It is because education, skills and jobs are crucial to opening up new opportunities, but also widening horizons where we can bring hope and prosperity. This also applies to the role of the private sector and technology, which is critical to economic development. This is exactly how we can transform the poorest and the most unsecure parts of the world, and from a development perspective, help countries and economies to stand on their own 2 feet. Now, I've always been struck by the exceptional achievement that is the State of Israel, a country that has turned desert into fertile and plentiful land, a country that started with nothing in a struggle for subsistence and survival, and of course is now a world leader in technology and in innovation. A country that, despite the challenges of a turbulent region, has become a democratic success story. A country that is at the forefront of the skills revolution, whether in technology, life skills, vocational skills, and is creating the most practical solutions to enhance the lives of the poorest and the most marginalised in the world. The desire and the responsibility to want to help others, coupled with that can-do attitude, is, ladies and gentlemen, precisely the sort of Jewish homeland that was dreamt by Herzl and was, of course, and supported by that historic letter, the Balfour Declaration. Now, I've long admired Israel's extraordinary ingenuity and leadership in technology and innovation, and I'm delighted that the UK is working so closely with Israel in so many ways. And in technology, when we look at the Israel-UK Tech Hub that helps the UK to ally with Israel's status as a startup nation, with more startups per capita than anywhere but the Silicon Valley, and of course with the incredibly innovative and entrepreneurial culture too. And in turn, Israel is partnering with the UK's world-leading science research and fast-growing tech sectors. So in my role as the International Development Secretary, I'm keen that we continue this collaboration, in fact take it further to a new level, so that we can create jobs and opportunity in the poorest parts of the region and in the poorest parts of the world, to provide that vital and essential support to the most vulnerable and the marginalised in society. The UK is also committed to deepening our partnership across trade, security and cultural interests, and working together to tackle pressing global issues. It is important for security and stability, not just in the UK, not just in the region, but across the world. So on this centenary, it is fair to say that the Balfour Declaration was indispensable to the creation of a great nation. In the decades since its birth, Israel has prevailed over what has sometimes been the hostility of neighbours to become a liberal democracy and a high-tech economy. In a region where many have endured authoritarianism and misrule, Israel stands out as a free society and as a beacon. Britain will stand by those values and stand by Israel. And by doing so, we stand up to tackling the region's challenges, not just in the short term, but for the long haul, working to build a more prosperous and stable future for all. And these values were precisely the sort of values that were central to the historic letter that we commemorate and celebrate today. Thank you.